So I wanted to make a video about part of my journey and about other people's journeys. Significantly, I've climbed up this hill here today, which for some people might not even feel like a hill. There's a bit of an incline over there. But for me it felt like Everest because, of course, over the last few years, for one reason and another, including in part to do with COVID and me giving in to my own health issues, I've lost a lot of my mobility. And the purpose of this holiday has been to have a reset of my mind, so that hopefully when I get back to Pentra in Wales, that, I might start putting my health needs first, which is what I need to do. It's significant of the place where I am today because it's called Adam's Knoll, and I'll just give a little you can see that there's been a platform built where the family can sit on here under the shade of this beautiful wood behind me. You can hear all little creatures cracking and creaking, and of course my chair creaking. I think that's why it's called a creak, actually, because everything seems to creak here. Look at that view. Absolutely stunning. In some ways I feel like I've landed in paradise. This to me is paradise. So who's Adam? I bet you're thinking. Well, Adam is my cousin's son. I think it was her middle son. She's got 3 sons. And a few years ago, in 2017, I found out that he'd taken his own life. And that hit home to me because of my background with my own niece Julie, who of course attempted to take her life, and then her health was diminished by that action, and she only lived for another 12 years before she eventually died in 2008. And I'd always, because I've had a background in graphic design, I'd always had this highfalutin idea of doing a magazine. And when I heard that Maggie had lost her son to suicide, I guess that triggered me, and I unshelved the idea I'd had about doing a magazine, and I created the Mind Dairying magazine. That took me on another journey where me and my partner, my long-term partner at the time, we split up. We went our separate ways. And I moved out and into a rented place of my own and started a new life. I decided to stay in Wales for my son because I knew it was important to keep him near to his dad so he didn't have to choose between us. And yeah, it took its toll on me a little bit. I'd had a job in the local photo lab, which had all come to a disappointing end. That's the subject of another story. And I kind of lost all my confidence and felt that, lost all my purpose. Effectively, I suppose it's called a breakdown. But I did produce this magazine, and apart from accomplishing that, it actually opened doors to another path that I'd never considered before. I was invited to become a Samaritan, which I did. I went out into the community delivering workshops and learning education, how to deliver education things, because I always felt that, education is probably the paramount for mental health. So I'd go into schools along with my buddy Jack, and I'd let him do all the talking because I was petrified. And then one day he told me that I couldn't watch anymore, I had to do it. So he made me do it. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved speaking to all these youngsters, and who, some of them weren't ready to listen, but some of them were. And it actually felt like I had some worth. At the same time, I became a service user representative on the local health board. And I started attending very, very boring meetings where all these people from different parts of the health board would sit on meetings and discuss things. And one of the ones that was close to home to me, obviously, was the Suicide and Self-Harm Board, which 4 years later I'm now the co-chair of. And a lot of things have happened since that time began. Can you hear that? That's the train going through. It's not a proper, regular train. It's more of a tourist attraction now. So that's just going through the valley in the background there. So yeah, I've had this path carved out for me. I've followed this path. I haven't created the path myself, and this path has taken me on a journey that someone accused me the other week of being obsessed with suicide. And I felt it was a fair comment, really. And I think the reason that I would seem obsessed with suicide is the fact that when you've lost somebody by suicide, it's different to any other grief that you have, because there's so much guilt. And there's that never-ending feeling of what if? Why couldn't I have done something? And that's never been more relevant as I sit here today in this absolute place of paradise, which was Adam's home. I'm sure if you're around Adam, you'll help me try and vocalise this. That, Adam himself had lost somebody to suicide before, and he'd had to go and help the people who'd lost that person. And he'd said to his mum that, it brought it home how much it affects everybody's lives. And he couldn't understand why somebody would do something like that. And in that way, you always think that you're safe. I remember another friend, a lady that I've become friends with in the Rhondda, and she had a young son who took his life at age 15. And I think only a week or two before he did that, he'd shared a post about, being mentally aware and men speaking up about their mental health, to always seek help. And it comes back to this thing that I found out about just recently, that a lot of suicides that are completed, particularly by men, are often spontaneous. Although there's there's things that's in their lives that are, you know, maybe going wrong, and there's predeterminates, if you like. There's, you know, not everything's hunky-dory in their life. Maybe they've had a row with the girlfriend, or they've fell out with somebody, or things aren't good for them. As I learned when I did the assist training, that there's always loss around suicide. So if somebody has lost a job, fell out with a friend, fell out with particularly relationships where there's loss, you know, and it could be loss not only of the partner but children, where there's loss of children as well. That can have an unbelievably deep rooted effect on people. Not just men, women as well. You know, I on my 48th birthday, I tried to take my life, and I took an overdose. Afterwards I felt so embarrassed. It was about it. I never told anybody about it for a while. But it was this spontaneous act. I mean, you know, in my rational mind, I would never dream of doing such a thing. But that moment in time when my whole world seemed to crash, and I just believed that everybody was better off without me. I did. I truly believe that. And I think that that's what a lot of people feel, as if they're a burden to people around them, that they're mentally exhausted and they have nothing left to give. And I guess the thought of trying again just seems so impossible. I want you to know, if you're still listening to this, that please just talk to somebody. In those 10 minutes or so, sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes even less, that those thoughts occur in your head, and you think that you've got no reason to live anymore. For God's sake, just allow yourself one more conversation. Find that one person who will listen to you. And if it's not somebody that you know, because quite often a lot of us don't want to talk to our close ones because we don't want to burden them, but ring Samaritans, or ring PAPYRUS, or ring Call, or text Shout, or anybody, one of your best mates, or somebody you haven't even spoken to for a long time. It doesn't matter who it is, just one call. Promise yourself that one call before you take that action, and I guarantee, okay, if it's somebody like Samaritans, they won't talk you out of it, you know. They just allow you to talk and listen. From my time of being a Samaritan, I trained as a Samaritan listener, and I only did it a few times, and it was the most astounding privilege and simple thing that I'd ever done, because all I did was listen to somebody and allow them to speak to me. And you think to yourself, that's not fucking rocket science. Why is it so powerful? And I tell you why. Because if you really believe that you've got nothing left to give to anybody in this world, and you're the worst thing since sliced bread, believe me, I've had a lot of those times, right? Talking to a stranger who gives you the time of day just to get all of those bloody thoughts out of your head. And they don't tell you not to do it. They don't judge you, and no matter what you've done, they listen to you. Sometimes that's all you need. It might not change your mind. You might feel that after that, no, still want to do it. And that's your prerogative. You know, the Samaritans believe in self-determination, which means that if you really need to do it, but at least talk to people about it. If you know, it's a massive thing ending your life. It's not just something that, you know, ending your pain, which it does. And I can imagine that that's exactly why it's so popular. You know, what it does do is passes that pain on to people who do love you, who might be sick of bloody picking you up and sick of listening to the same old shite that you spill. God knows, I've drove my friends mad over the last 4 years about a certain issue in my life. And I can hear them rolling their eyes whenever I say a certain person's name. But you know, I'm pretty sure that that's not a reason that they wouldn't want me around. Even though I feel like a complete idiot in a lot of situations and I'm in a lot of pain. So yeah, I've digressed a bit. I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, the purpose of being up on Adam's Knoll is to say to people, you know, you think that your life hasn't any meaning, or you don't feel that you can go on, and maybe all you need is just to have a conversation with somebody and see it through a different perspective. Because sat here on Adam's Knoll today, my God, why would you want to leave this?